Tonight, it only takes one moment, 1 minute, one night for lives to be turned upside down.
Not sure if you guys had the opportunity to take a look at this special report. I was able to break it up into 2 parts. I do know that 45 minutes could be quite redundant, so I broke it up into 2 parts. Let me know what you think about it. Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next video, remain safe, and may God bless us all.
Tonight, it only takes one moment, 1 minute, one night for lives to be turned upside down.
We lost 4 beautiful souls.
The hardest part, we cannot change the outcome.
For a quiet college campus to become a crime scene.
This could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
What do you say to the students who are scared?
I tell them I'm scared too.
And for a killer to seemingly vanish in the middle of the night.
There is a threat out there still.
It's all hands on deck for investigators, racing to retrace steps, comb through evidence, and stop this case from going cold.
They could break open any time.
Because it only takes one clue, one slip up, one tip.
Somebody somewhere has information about this case.
To end the nightmare.
We owe this to these young kids.
Idaho Murder Mystery, a News Nation special report, starts right now. Good evening, I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho, for this News Nation special report. 3 weeks ago, the unthinkable happened in this house behind me. 4 university students brutally murdered here. Their killer not only is still on the run, but still all of this remains a mystery 3 weeks later. And we have breaking news tonight. New details that we have just confirmed. News Nation is learning that Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries, which may end up being a very, very important piece of evidence when it comes to determining who the target was in this attack. I have learned Kaylee and Maddie were in an upstairs room in the house, so the killer had to go specifically upstairs to get to them. And again, that new information just confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were, quote, significantly more brutal. That is new information that we are going to analyze coming up over the next hour. All of this really is a nightmare for this town, a nightmare that they just cannot wake up from. Over the next hour, we are going to be diving into all of the details of this case, learning more about the victims and their families, trying to make sense of this unimaginable loss here in Idaho. We're gonna go take you around the crime scene, show you what it looks like, as well as an exclusive look at the Idaho State Crime Lab. And we're going to remain focused throughout all of this on the victims and their family. To try and understand how we got to this point, first, we go back to the beginning. Moscow, Idaho, a beautiful, quiet college town near the border with Washington State, blanketed in snow this time of year, and home to the University of Idaho, with 11,000 students who have almost never had a reason not to feel safe.
The worst crimes we see in town involve things like bike theft or cars getting keyed or something like that. We're a nice little artsy town that provides a great quality of life to a lot of people. But what happened in the early morning hours of November 13th has shaken this community like never before.
I'm scared too. This is a worrying time, but we also have the ability to understand that this is just another example that crime happens, and it can happen anywhere.
Fear, a college community still in shock following the brutal stabbings of 4 of their students. So many asking, how did this happen? We start on the evening of Saturday, November 12th. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan were where many college students spend their Saturday nights. At this local bar, the Corner Club on North Main Street in downtown Moscow. According to local law enforcement, the two were at the bar between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison moved over to a local food truck. You can see them here on surveillance video from the Grub Truck down the street on South Main Street. News Nation has confirmed the two women used a private party for a ride home from downtown to their home on King Road. The home is about a mile and a half, or about a 6-minute drive from the food truck. They got home around 1:56 a.m., according to digital evidence collected by investigators. Investigators also say Kaylee and Madison made several calls to an ex-boyfriend of one of the girls 7 times, raising some eyebrows. That person has now been cleared, according to law enforcement. Kaylee Goncalves' sister spoke with News Nation's Chris Cuomo.
There's no boy problem. There's no threat. There's no high-risk lifestyle that could have indicated this. It has taken all of us completely by shock, and we have absolutely no ideas.
Another roommate, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were also out the night of November 12th. Investigators confirmed Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on the University of Idaho campus. Here's where things get a little shaky. Law enforcement confirms with News Nation Ethan and Xana were seen at the fraternity house around 9 p.m. They reportedly made it back home around 1:45 a.m. Investigators are still trying to piece together what happened between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m.
Figure out who they were with, what that was going on, maybe any routes or paths that they took to end up going home, those types of things. Potentially, that is critical to the investigation.
As for the two surviving roommates, they were also out on the night of November 12th in the Moscow community. They returned home by 1 a.m. The two surviving roommates did not wake up until later in the morning on November 13th. That is when they called other friends to the house because they believed one of the second-floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones inside the residence. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before Moscow police arrived at the home. Officers discovered Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan dead inside the residence on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home, suffering from stab wounds.
It was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
So many questions unanswered. Authorities remaining tight-lipped, saying there are many details they still simply don't know.
Do you know inside the house whether the victims' doors were locked into their individual rooms?
I don't know that.
Do you know were any messages left behind in the house, like almost symbols from the killer? Because sometimes in other cases, you know, if it was like a fetish killing, they would leave something on the body or write something on the wall. Is there anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
While authorities remain tight-lipped, we are learning other details from the families of the victims. At the vigil on campus Wednesday night, Kaylee's father gave insight into how close his daughter and Madison were discovered, saying the two were found together in the same bed. Earlier this week, there was confusion when law enforcement said there was a miscommunication between police and the county prosecutor about whether this was a targeted attack or not.
My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence. That's all that they can offer at this point.
The latest from police is they do think the murders were targeted, but police say they have not concluded if the target was the house or one of the occupants. Investigators have also confirmed a 6th person on the lease was not in the home at the time of the murders.
And the roommates